All right, who's ready to go rob a train? Welcome to Stories from the Midland, a collection of historic tales from Teller County and the surrounding areas. In today's episode, we're going with some guys onto the Florence and Cripple Creek Railroad's number 6 train to rob it. So, night falls on March 20th, 1895, and we got 4 rough men meeting at the Strong Minds dump to talk about their next scheme for raising some funds. These men were Bob Taylor, Sherman Crumley, Kid Wallace, and the crew's newest member, Louis Vanek. And you know what? Criminal activity wasn't anything new to the bunch, and when Taylor, the gang's leader, suggested that they hold up somebody, Crumley's brother Grant already has an idea for robbing the F&CC number 6 train. Grant Crumley, by the way, Grant and Sherman Crumley were named for Union Civil War generals, managed the branch saloon in Cripple Creek, and he saw quite a few prosperous visitors at his reputedly crooked gambling tables. Now, not wanting to rob the people of Cripple Creek because, he lived among them, he came up with an idea for holding up the out-of-towners as they made their way past Victor on the F&CC. The guys hammered out the details of the robbery, and Vanek then went and enlisted the help of the crew's 5th member, O.C. Wilder, who was ready for any plan the crew put together. Now, masks and clothes were kept at Wilder's house for disguise, and on the evening of March 23rd, he and Vanek went there to get them. They then headed over to a cabin at the Strong Mine to meet up with the others and pass out the items. Vanek and Wallace took off to get into position to intercept the number 6. Their plan was to climb the front end of the baggage car and from there get into the engine to stop the train, at which point the others would climb on board. At 9:50 p.m., F&CC train number 6, which had originated in Cripple Creek and made stops in Anaconda and Elkton, departed Victor. Taylor, Crumley, and Wilder stayed hidden as the train approached. Vanek and Wallace, walking on the tracks towards the train, swung signal lanterns to get it to stop. But according to testimony by Vanek, engineer A.J. Pope suspected the men were going to try to get a free ride, and he opened up the train's throttles. Now the train's picking up speed. Vanek wasn't able to get aboard the train, but he watched as Wallace jumped at it. Wallace caught the steps and was able to pull himself onto the train and threaten Pope to stop. When the train did stop, the rest of the crew boarded. The bandits pretty quickly passed on the mail sacks, but they did take one empty sack in which to put stolen valuables. The passengers described them as dressed like miners and good-natured. Brandishing their pistols, they robbed everyone in the coaches, and then they woke everybody in the sleeper car to rob them too. Into the empty mail sack went wallets, jewelry, watches, and any other valuables they could get their grubby mitts on. When the bandits were done, they ordered the engineer to continue on, and they disappeared into the darkness. They'd stolen about $500 in cash and about another $200 in valuables. When the train reached the depot at Alta Vista, conductor Patrick Lane quickly contacted the depot at Victor to let them know of the robbery. So early the next morning, a posse departed into the countryside to look for the bandits. But those bandits had blended back into the local population. The cash they had stolen would be easy enough to split up, but the valuables were a problem. Posse members had been working their way through pawn shops looking to catch the bandits, so Vanek was dispatched to Denver to sell the stuff they stole. When he got back, he was pretty angry when he found out the others had split up the cash without including him. Thanks to the sheriff of Huerfano County, bloodhounds were set on the trail which led pursuers to Taylor's cabin. And not long after, Taylor, Wilder, and Wallace were found in a Victor's saloon and apprehended. The trial started September 3rd. Eyewitness testimony and testimony by Vanek, who had turned state's evidence, I guess he was still mad about the money, led to the convictions of Taylor, Wilder, and Wallace, who were sentenced to the penitentiary in Canyon City on September 18th. The jury had deliberated for about an hour. But eyewitnesses couldn't place Crumley, so he was acquitted. Now, a few notes on our episode's participants. Engineer Pope continued to work for the FNCC. In April 1897, a train he was driving had its rearmost car leave the tracks at the Cripple Creek Yard at Alta Vista. Like the train accident that occurred on day 2 of the FNCC's passenger service, the cause was a mystery. The passengers only received bumps and bruises with one sprained ankle, and one crew member received a cut to his forehead and a sprained ankle of his own. According to the Rocky Mountain News September 19, 1895 edition, it turned out Taylor's real name was Robert Emmett Lewis, and he was wanted for a number of violent crimes throughout several western states. Fred Frank Kid Wallace was around 16 years old when the crew robbed the train. In January 1900, he would be one of 4 men responsible for the murder of the prison's captain of the guard as they broke out of the Canyon City Penitentiary. One of the escapees was 12-year-old convicted murderer Anton Wood. Wallace and Wood were captured 2 nights later at a campfire, exhausted and hungry. But you know what? Wallace would be pardoned in September 1907 by Colorado Governor Henry Butchell. Saloonman Grant Crumley later became infamous for the shooting of Sam Strong, owner of the Strong Mine. Then there was some photo passed around that everyone thought genuinely showed Strong dead on the ground. But it turned out to be a reenactment. And, by the way, our man Grant was not convicted of murdering him. Thank you for joining me for this episode. This is Tommy Allen wishing you a great day. And should you find yourself looking for a way to raise funds, robbing a train is probably not the way to go. We look forward to having you join us next time for more Stories from the Midlands.